These are the times Taffer completely lost it on bar rescue. So what happened is, in season 4, Taffer visited Ciravello's bar in Long Beach, California, which was owned by Danny Harris. Back in the day, the bar was his favorite hangout, so when it went on the market, he bought it. However, Danny couldn't buy the bar by himself. So he got 3 investors for the bar, Justin and Val Allen, as well as Marcus Rosenthal. They all put in $50,000 each, making them majority owners. As for Danny, he invested $111,000 into the bar, but only owned 40% of it. Now, the 3 investors only put in their money because they loved Danny. They also saw the bar as an opportunity to make some income and, of course, have some fun. Little did Danny know that buying the bar meant giving his full commitment. Danny thought that owning a bar just meant handing out good food and drinks. Well, he forgot about the maintenance part of it. Soon enough, the bar was in dire need of repairs, but Danny didn't have enough money to fix it.
We're struggling on money.
With time, the clientele started looking for better options in the neighborhood. Because, well, who likes a shabby bar anyway? A few months in, the situation was looking very grim. At the time of filming, the bar was $375,000 in debt and was consistently losing $12,000 to $15,000 a month. And trust me, that's no joke. The bar had 4 months left before they would have to forcibly close down, so Danny reached out to Taffer for some help. In this episode, Taffer brought in his expert chef Brendan Collins and mixologist Lisa Marie Joyce to help rescue the bar. But before they made an appearance, Taffer's wife Nicole and her friend Ashley went undercover. They would give Taffer some much needed insight about the service. Once seated at the counter, Nicole ordered a whiskey sour and Ashley got an old-fashioned. When they received their drinks, both drinks looked disgusting. And when the ladies made the other bartender remake their drinks, whatever they were served was still awful.
One bartender made a drink, literally 5 minutes later, another bartender remade the drinks and they looked completely different.
Nicole also ordered everything from the menu to find out how good the food was. However, the meals they received were as terrible as the drinks. Each and every dish was so full of grease that it made the entire dish slimy. At this point, Taffer had seen enough and decided to confront the owner. Upon meeting him, Taffer believed that Danny was inconsistent. When Taffer showed the pasta dish to Danny, the owner was well aware of the issues, which made Taffer furious. And why wouldn't he be?
And say to yourself, this isn't right, and then you brought it out anyway.
Danny knew exactly how the dish was cooked and still decided to serve it to the customers. How could he be this obtuse? But despite seeing Taffer's point, Danny didn't seem to care at all. It actually looked like he was smiling and passing it off as a small mistake. Taffer, however, was disappointed. He did send in his wife after all, and this is how she was being treated. It was Danny's duty to fix these problems, but he was very much a part of them. Even though Justin, Val, and Marcus owned 60% of the business, they were just remote investors. On site, it was only Danny who screwed up the business. Taffer was baffled why the investors, who owned a majority of the business, never did something about it. And when he questioned them, none of them had a word to say.
You guys own 60% of this business. You control it.
Already fed up with the situation, Taffer suggested that the owners consider doing a hostile takeover. But soon after, Danny laughed off the suggestion as if it were a joke. This infuriated the bar genius. When Taffer asked him what was so funny about it, Danny said something absolutely pathetic.
You guys think you're acting kind of a little crazy.
Taffer, however, tried to keep his cool because Danny wasn't making any sense anymore. Taffer then explained to Danny that he was only trying to get through to him since the investors couldn't. Instead of just understanding the situation, Danny was so stubborn that he shamelessly told Taffer that he was tuning him out. The famous rescuer was so pissed that he tried one last time to make Danny understand by saying,
Your bar sucks, and you're gonna stand there and defend it in front of him?
Taffer was annoyed with the way that Danny was defending himself. The owner actually began to attack Taffer for his methods. He even told the bar genius that the tactics he was using were f***ed up. Taffer couldn't believe how arrogant and irresponsible Danny was. He was completely repulsed with Danny's behavior. And what's more, Nicole would probably get sick because of the disgusting food she just ate. But Danny could care less. He didn't even care about the customers who might go home sick after dining at his bar. And that was unacceptable. Danny could lose all the money that he wanted, but he could put someone's life at risk. And to make sure that everyone got his point, this is what Taffer did.
You get people sick, that is unacceptable. Clean up your home.
Now, Danny not only had to repair the bar, but also get new cutlery. But in this next bar, Taffer was so mad that he didn't want to spend 1 second more in the kitchen. In Season 3, Taffer visited Fairways Golf Bar and Grill in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Richard Jordan had bought the bar after being in the finance sector for 10 years. He had no idea how to run a bar, but the idea of owning one fascinated him. He came up with weird stuff to make it work, but sadly, none of it helped the business. When I say weird, I mean this $40,000 golf simulator. But did it help draw in more customers? Nope, it failed miserably. Now, I have no idea why he thought this was a great idea. He could have easily made better use of that money on something that could have actually helped the bar. But that wasn't the only thing. Richard also tried his hand at several other marketing strategies like bingo, but that didn't work very well. Since the business swiftly went downhill, Richard had to return to his old job just to keep things running. While he got some money, he handed the responsibility of managing the bar to Michelle. Even though he left her to look after the bar, Richard hardly allowed her to do what she needed effectively. Kevin, the cook, who was Richard's friend, neither cared about the cooking nor the cleaning. Thanks to the poor management, Richard was $150,000 in debt. When Taffer arrived, he surveyed the bar with health inspector Steve Blavat. And they noticed that the ceiling was covered in grease and leaky pipes. Experts chef Brian Duffy and mixologist Phil Wills stepped in as Taffer's spies. And they ordered everything from the menu, including 7 drinks to gauge the staff and their service. While most chefs would get to work upon receiving an order, Kevin started laughing after seeing the long receipt. Meanwhile, Chef Brian and Phil were served their drinks on time, but the drink came with a special garnish of flies.
There are bugs in the bar too.
But that was just the beginning, since the horror show had yet to come. When Phil received his beer, it was served in a frosty mug and it was only half full. To make matters worse, when Phil tasted it, the beer had a peculiar metallic taste.
Right when it hit the bottom of my stomach, I knew something was wrong.
Meanwhile, an even more terrifying scene was taking place in the kitchen. Kevin was seen committing a series of health code violations, and Steve was bewildered by how Kevin lasted this long. Kevin didn't even bother washing his hands at all. He was seen working with raw pork, then switching over to beef using the same bare hands. He didn't give a damn about cross-contamination. He probably didn't even know what it meant to maintain sanitary conditions in the kitchen. To make matters worse, he used a dirty charred bowl to cover the burgers. My heart goes out to the customers who were eating there that night. They have no idea what was going on there. Despite all the shabby work, it took 29 minutes for the experts to receive their orders, and they only received a few of them. Right down to the chips and salsa to the fried mushrooms, none of it was good. The burger was so undercooked that you could actually see the blood oozing out from it. And remember how Phil was talking about the weird tasting beer? Well, he had to get it out of his system.
Oh my God, he threw up.
By now, Taffer and Steve had seen enough and barged into the bar before more customers got sick. Taffer first confronted Richard about the bar's terrible practices and about Phil getting sick. It was then discovered that the beer served to Phil had expired and Michelle had no idea about it. When Chef Brian pointed out that the fried mushroom had dirt on the bottom of it, Richard and Michelle were in denial about it. To prove his point, Taffer headed into the kitchen with Chef Brian and Steve for a quick inspection. Once there, the first thing Taffer did was make Kevin taste the salsa, and this is how he reacted.
What do you think about that?
Tastes like
It's bubbling.
From a fryer that was incredibly greasy to splashes of food all over the kitchen floor, it was clear that this kitchen hadn't been cleaned for years. Taffer then found 3 huge containers of raw meat sitting on the counter. And when they checked what the temperature was at, this is what happened.
68.7 degrees.
Throw it out. Good job, chef.
When Taffer and his experts checked the walk-in fridge out, it was even more horrifying. There was mold everywhere, which isn't only hazardous to the customers, but also the people who use it as well. And Taffer only had one thing to say.
Get out of here.
But just then, Chef Brian spotted something. And you won't believe what it was. Forget mold, you would have never seen this in any other walk-in before.
Look at this.
Oh my God.
You don't want to be breathing that stuff in.
And after seeing this, Taffer truly lost it.
Out of here. Get the out of here. This is unbelievable.
Wait, didn't the experts order fried mushrooms earlier? I really hope Kevin didn't use these. If you thought that this was Taffer's craziest outburst, then wait till you see this next one where words made no difference, so Taffer had to use his fists. In Season 3, Taffer visited Zanzibar in Denver, Colorado. Owned by Amy Benari, this bar was opened in 2009. Amy immigrated to Denver, Colorado after completing his service in the Israeli army. The bar became quite famous since it was one of the first bars in downtown Denver. Zanzibar initially made around $38,000 a month, but in 2011, after a near-fatal car accident, Amy stayed away from the bar. The lack of supervision enabled the staff to misbehave with the customers, which led to the eventual decline of the bar. At the time of filming, Amy returned to the bar 6 months prior and fired the entire old staff. He then hired new ones in hopes of bringing back the customers. But as Eleanor Roosevelt said, true hospitality consists of giving the best of yourself to your guests. And the old staff of Zanzibar failed to give this necessary hospitality, causing lasting damage. Amy lost $2,000 to $3,000 a month and was close to losing the business after 6 months. Amy began to run his staff with an iron fist and invested around $250,000 into the establishment. Denver, Colorado's downtown district is home to college students who often look for lively party atmospheres. The new restaurants in the neighborhood flourished since they had what the young crowd was looking for. Later on, Taffer brought in 2 recent college graduates, Cameo and Nick, to survey the bar. What's more, he brought in expert bartender Jenny Costa and expert chef Duffy to get some insight. When they arrived at the bar, Amy was seen yelling free beer, which is a really dumb move. Especially considering how much the bar was losing, but Amy was desperate to get customers. As Nick and Cameo sat at the bar, none of the bartenders paid attention to them. They were also pestered by a drunken customer who made Cameo incredibly uncomfortable. Instead of just making the customer leave the bar, one of the bartenders gave the customer more drinks. Anyway, the drinks that Nick and Cameo received had way too much alcohol. What's more, the food that they ordered was delivered by the kitchen staff, who seemed to have no idea about health code violations. This man had the same gloves, touched other patrons, and sneezed on it too. Ew! Seeing this, Amy stepped in and gave away free champagne shots, which cost him 6 entire bottles. I don't have to tell you how expensive champagne is. That's insane! Taffer then entered and found 2 hammered customers, which pissed him off a lot.
When we're irresponsible and we hurt people, I get angry.
He then walked into the kitchen and lectured them about cross-contamination and made them throw out everything. Taffer scolded the staff for allowing the customers to get so wasted that they couldn't walk or even passed out. He ordered them to wash the place out clean, which was his only condition to help the bar out. The next day, Taffer came to a cleaner bar and met with the staff, asking them about their positions. Sarah said that she was the bar manager, but not the official manager. It was clear to Taffer that Amy didn't listen to his staff. Then, a very disturbing revelation was made about Amy. Amy offered free sex to the customers. What the actual hell? And Taffer couldn't help but berate him for this. But what's even worse is that in 2 days' time, Amy had given away almost $2,500 worth of free alcohol. After listening to this, Amy furiously started throwing plates at the wall. I really don't know how this was supposed to help anything, but whatever. Taffer then brought in his experts. Jenny helped the bartenders improve their pouring techniques by blindfolding them to get them used to pouring properly. Then Chef Brian made Chef Dave cook the top 3 dishes at the bar. Before the stress test, Taffer announced that he wanted the ticket time to be 12 minutes. As the bar opened, Taffer brought in the target audience. So how did it go? The stress test was a massive failure. The bartenders were still overpouring, were very disorganized, and also mixed up tables. On top of that, no one was getting the dirty glasses, and they soon ran out of clean ones. And guess who was the biggest disaster of them all? Amy. So this is what Taffer did next.
Does everybody know what a show is?
With that, Taffer shut the bar down for the night. He then told the customers to return in 3 days after the bar was revamped. When Taffer called out Amy and yelled "shame on you" at him, all the owner did was just nod with a smug smile. But that doesn't mean he wasn't pissed. Take a look at what Amy had to say.
John doesn't know what he's dealing with. You think I'm gonna lay down and take it?
After closing the bar, Taffer had another meeting with the staff. He told them about how disappointed he was with them, and more so with Amy. And that's when all hell broke loose.
This is the night you
This is
show
not
me
a
how
stress
you
test.
are.
Absolutely not.
Both men were equally fired up, and none of them were willing to back down. Amy went on and on about how he was humiliated in front of the customers. And Taffer couldn't believe that after all that, Amy was still concerned about his ego and nothing else. Taffer then asked Sarah if he was unreasonable, and Sarah, without any hesitation, responded with a big no. And seeing the plight of the staff, Taffer said,
It's all about his ego, Mr. Entertainer. How about them?
Taffer was infuriated with Amy's attitude, and what bothered him more is that Amy considered his staff as immature kids. Hearing this, the bar genius told Amy that he would never succeed if he didn't believe in his staff. Amy then started to rant on how to do business. But Taffer wasn't here for the lessons. While he tried his best to ignore Amy's arrogance, what Amy said next was extremely disrespectful and rude. When Chef Brian tried to explain the dire situation in the kitchen, Amy bluntly called him a fat boy. Amy began to body shame and everyone was shocked. Things escalated from then on into what might be one of the biggest fights in the history of bar rescue. There was no way Taffer would tolerate someone being so vile to an expert who just came to save his business. So these were the times that Jon Taffer lost his mind on bar rescue. Thankfully, after all the drama that unfolded at Zanzibar, it looks like Taffer's efforts actually paid off. It is one of the very few bars that's still up and running to this very day, but I'll always remember it as the most dramatic episode to have ever been aired on the show. However, Taffer was so disappointed in this next owner that you won't believe what he said.
30 years I've been rescuing bars, and I have never seen anything like this.
From bar owners trying to explain away their failures to staff members desperately justifying their mistakes, it's a never-ending deluge of lame excuses and mind-boggling mental gymnastics. Trust me, you're not ready for this outrageous excuse, which will probably make your eyes roll out of your head. And Jon simply couldn't make heads or tails of it.
I saw an animal in here before.
That's a squirrel.
How can we leave that there?
Okay, but what if his children are in there?
So let's get into this dumpster fire of a disaster, shall we? So back in '92, Renee had a brilliant idea to create a bike-themed bar, which was supposed to be the hottest spot in town. But guess what? It became irrelevant faster than a TikTok trend. How did they end up in such hot water that they had to call for a rescue? Well, the answer should be obvious. Get ready, cause it's about to get real cringe up in here. You see, when it comes to this owner, she had a whole arsenal of excuses lined up to defend their and their employees' failures. And we're not just talking about one employee. Oh no. We're talking about a whole squad of them, all of whom dropped the ball super hard.
I'm not sure what it is. We're just barely holding on.
No doubt, she tried every trick in the book to reverse the bar's fortunes. From karaoke nights to pool tournaments, she threw all the spaghetti against the wall, hoping that something would stick. But here's the harsh truth. She never once paused to reflect on the real issue at hand. Instead, she conveniently shifted the blame to the general manager, Wayne. I mean, seriously? How could you expect your employees to care about your business when you've mentally checked out yourself? It's like setting them up for failure from the get-go. And guess what? Failure is exactly what followed. The bar was quickly sinking, with morale at an all-time low. It's a textbook case of poor leadership, nothing more to it. Well, it's about time I quickly hopped into the issue here. Deborah, who was here to help them with hospitality, was pissed at them, and for good reason.
They're leaving their sections, going outside for cigarettes, which is biggest pet peeve of all.
She definitely wasn't wrong. All she wanted to do was help, but I guess they were used to taking the bar for granted and couldn't follow simple instructions. This eventually led to a huge fight between Renee and Brittany. However, Brittany here, the waitress, was not okay with following orders. She said that she was asked to converse with the customers. What she forgot was that she was supposed to have a conversation in her area. I mean, talk about not paying attention to important details.
You conversate with the customers in your area. It's not that difficult.
But hey, how did Renee feel about such disrespect and talking back like that when all she wanted to do was just help out?
She's trying to help you. You're staring at her like, what are you gonna do, take her out?
Brittany was such a menace. I mean, you don't even want that drama right now. She shouted and screamed from the rooftops that her paychecks were being bounced. She had been working there for free, and above all this, she wasn't hiding her rage in front of the guests. And that's just not the impression you would want for your bar, right? I mean, employees screaming and fighting with the owner? Not a good look, man. And when Jon confronted Renee that this wasn't the kind of drama she should be keeping around, her response was so fucking lame. Guys, you'll just have to hear it to believe it.
Oh, there's drama here every night.
Well, that's wrong.
I mean, Renee, come on, what the hell were you thinking when you said that? And talking back to Jon as well? The man was here to help you out, and you told him something as hideous as that? How in the world could you pass it off as something that happens regularly? Honestly, that's nothing compared to what happened at this next bar. When our main man Jon Taffer ventured into O-Face Bar, located in Council Bluffs Island, Iowa, he was in quite for an unpleasant shock. Owned by the adventurous couple Matthew and Karen Overmeyer, this bar was their retirement dream turned reality back in 2011. The unique name, inspired by Matt's nickname, instantly caught the attention of the locals, and the place was buzzing with excitement upon its grand opening.
My nickname is Mr. O-Face. My wife was like, why don't we call it O-Face?
Things were going pretty darn well for a while, with the bar raking in a cool $15,000 a month. Not too shabby, right? But this is where the story takes a wild turn. The owners, who had a good deal of overconfidence by now, started partying it up at their own joint. And to make matters worse, their manager screwed up big time. Well, let's just say that he forgot what professionalism meant. Not to mention that Karen, one half of the dynamic duo of owners, had a bit of a drinking problem, and she was often busy downing shots at the bar rather than managing her staff. To top it all off, she conveniently placed the blame on poor Matt for everything that had gone awry. Talk about passing the buck, right?
I could leave her in a better place.
Of course you can, but I'm not gonna let her pass the blame to you.
As far as I could see up to this point, the situation was dire. O-Faced Bar was hemorrhaging money like there was no tomorrow, losing a staggering $4,000 every month. That's a humongous loss of nearly $20,000 in profits per month for those of you who are keeping score at home. And that deficit quickly racked up to a whopping $260,000 of debt, which was hanging over their heads like a dark cloud. With just 3 months left before the curtains permanently closed, they were in desperate need of a miracle just to stay above water. But Jon was just so disappointed in Karen. This woman was a mess. And bringing that mess into her own bar? Well, what exactly did you expect would happen?
Karen is sitting at the end of the bar, ringing a bell for drinks.
I haven't even gotten to the best part yet. This couple spelled trouble like no other. And I don't even understand why Jon was helping them after all of their BS. Before I get into the idiotic excuse they made to protect themselves, do you remember the fight the employees had at the start? Well, here's a clip of what Karen said to the innocent employee because she wanted to side with the manager.
And why was I on the ground? Teresa, you ask for it all the time.
Is she even real? She looked so annoyed that she had to let the manager go because of a good employee. These guys don't even know the first thing about running a business. And Karen wasn't the only one messing things up around the place. Matt was equally at fault here. The way he treated his employees was downright disrespectful.
I'm talking to you. You understand me?
Well, you know things aren't going anywhere good because Jon took a step back from saving this place. And honestly, any sane person would. After the kind of craziness we've just seen from a few days of normal operation, I'd hate to see the place on a bad day. But what happened at this next bar could even make someone like Karen blush. You see, Jon Taffer was about to make waves at Bamboo Beach Tiki Bar in sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This tropical oasis was owned by Frank, who saw a golden opportunity and grabbed it by the horns. You feel me? He scored a hotel that conveniently housed this sick poolside bar using a genius loophole that made Bamboo Beach one of the rarest beach bars in the entire city. When this joint first opened up, it was straight fire. People were flocking to it like crazy, ready to soak up in the sun, sip on some dope cocktails, and vibe to the lively atmosphere. The cash was flowing, making stacks in profit every single week. It was lit, and both the bar and the hotel partied it up all the way to the bank.
To have days that we would bring $4,000 or $5,000 behind the bar consistently.
But hold up. Soon enough, things took a turn for the worse. Frank got really distracted by the fine babes he hired to work at Bamboo Beach. But here's the problem. He let his eyes wander and lost focus on running a tight ship. The spot started falling apart, and that messed with the profits and the hotel's reputation big time.
Definitely like the pretty girls. That's how we got hired here.
With that kind of behavior, do you really think he's serious about the bar? Now, we've reached a critical point. It was high time for Jon to swoop in and work his magic, restoring Bamboo Beach Tiki Bar to its former glory. But would he be able to save this sinking ship and bring back the vibes that made it legendary? Buckle up, you guys, cause it's about to go down with some of the lamest excuses ever.
This is not an ice bin.
No, but we use it
It
as
doesn't
ice
have the drainage on it to be an ice bin. This is incorrect.
When Jon and the crew stepped into the kitchen, they came face to face with the infamous cook Barry, who had an attitude bigger than the fryer itself. However, Jon was quick to call out the greasy mess that was lurking in the depths of that thing. But that wasn't the only issue. Oh no, my friend. Turns out, the kitchen was seriously lacking in the hygiene department. Whoa, surprising, right? There were no covers on the food, and even the sauces in the fridge were left exposed. Like seriously, talk about a recipe for disaster. The sheer audacity to call this clean, even with it staring him in the face. The whole place was in a desperate need of a deep clean, so Jon wasted no time in putting the staff to work. There was no escaping the scrub brushes and mop buckets this time around. The following day, Jon gathered the staff for a much-needed meeting, but there was one notable absence: Mia. Surprise, surprise, she was running on her usual fashionably late schedule. I mean, seriously, how many times can someone be fashionably late before it becomes plain old tardiness? But hey, Frank obviously loves his beautiful ladies, and this is what he had to say about them coming late.
People show up late all the time in the bar business. I've been
do.
in bar business my whole life.
Man, he's so predictable. I totally expected that from this guy. As the meeting commenced, Alyssa, the self-proclaimed head bartender, stepped up. But let's be real here, being the head bartender doesn't mean much when you're only in charge of handling the schedule. Talk about a power imbalance, am I right? I mean, come on, where's the accountability? It's time for some serious wake-up calls for this crew. Jon was about to lay down the law and show them that punctuality wasn't a suggestion but a non-negotiable expectation. But obviously, things got really heated and you'd never expect what happened next.
When she comes to work, she gives me 100%.
When she comes to work.
Yeah.
You're making excuses for keeping her.
Yet again, not surprised. All in all, Frank really needed to take charge of his business because the pretty ladies won't be around all the time, especially when he's filing for bankruptcy. Well, another bar, another excuse. This time, it's Freaky Tiki in sunny Clearwater, Florida. If I didn't know any better, I'd say we're going for a tiki bar hat trick here. Freaky Tiki was the brainchild of Frank Theriault, who took the plunge and became the proud owner of the joint back in 2008. But he didn't embark on this wild adventure alone. His friend Sean Trimp hopped on board and invested in the bar, scoring himself a sweet 2.5 stake in the business. Talk about a tag team.
Me and Frank, we used to work at a nightclub together. Sean and I thought we could do it better.
To kickstart their journey, Frank and Sean managed to secure a whopping $500,000 in loans, and boy did their hard work pay off. In their 5th year, they raked in a jaw-dropping $1 million. Damn, trust me, the party was poppin' and the cash was flowing. With their growing success, the owners decided to bring in their buddy Woody to manage the joint. Little did they know that their once promising venture would soon take a turn for the worse. You hear that? Everything was going positively. Emphasis on the past tense. As the good times rolled, Frank and Sean found themselves getting a little too comfortable, if you catch my drift. The bar became their playground and they joined in on the party like there was no tomorrow. But quite expectedly, their newfound work-life balance was anything but professional. From excessive drinking to comping bills left and right, their behavior veered way off course, endangering the very foundation of their business.
You're drinking that beer and not paying for it. We're losing the $3 that we should be making on it.
It was time for Jon Taffer to step in, lay down the law, and bring Freaky Tiki back from the brink. Now, mind you, we're about to dive into this chaotic world where things have gone from lit to straight up dumpster fire. It's safe to say that this bar became a hot mess. The toilets and drains were straight up revolting, spewing out sewage right into the bar. Yeah, you heard me right, literal poop party. The customers were like, no thanks, we're out of here. It's no wonder they left in droves.
All 3 toilets overflow and make a river out the door.
And don't even get me started on their financial situation. Ugh, that was a total train wreck. Freaky Tiki was bleeding cash, losing a mind-blowing $6,500 every single month. And let's not forget the mind-boggling debt. I mean, $500,000 in the hole is definitely not chump change. It was like they swiped their credit cards and never looked back.
I maxed out credit cards and lost my savings. What would hurt the most is my family be in trouble.
Jon Taffer and his crew were gonna work their magic and help turn this disaster around. But would they be able to make Freaky Tiki the hottest hangout spot again? Well, it wouldn't be easy. Woody took it way too far and fought with Jon, trying to explain how he was doing all that he was asked to. Honestly, if you hear what people had to say about the food, you'd think the manager should at least check up on it. Because the cook clearly didn't bother listening to Woody, and that led him to be the wrong guy here. And what did he do? He held the owner accountable for it. Man, the excuses never end.
No excuses, Woody, because I will hold your ass accountable. Am I clear?
Rightly said. He needed to hear that loud and clear so he could do better. But hey, as long as they're doing their jobs right and given proper training, at the end of the day, all is well. With that, let's now head straight to Brian's Ice House in Katy, Texas. The owner, Jeff Simon, took a leap of faith to chase his bar-owning dreams back in 2012. He ditched his boring accounting gig at the family practice and went all in, investing a whopping $1.1 million to own this notorious biker bar. But here's the deal, despite Jeff's efforts to clean up the place, he made one major mistake. He didn't bother changing the name. And let me tell you, that bad rep was sticking like gum to a shoe. The bar regulars were rowdy as hell and refused to bounce, making it impossible for new customers to even begin getting comfortable. Plus, the joint was located in the darkest corner of a dimly lit road, scaring away potential patrons faster than you can say, "Get me out of here!"
We didn't know where we were going.
When we walked in, there was a fight.
And hold up, it's not just the customers who were catching some major bad vibes. The staff were extremely rude too. They were literally driving customers away like it was their full-time job.
This is ridiculous.
Now, let's get into the staff drama. So, check this out. The crew is all like, yeah, we're gonna turn this place around and make it better than ever. But hold up, things took a wild turn when Randy dropped a bomb and accused Kimmy of straight up stealing. You know, Jon Taffer ain't the one to mess around with. He's got cameras everywhere, capturing all the action. And guess what? He caught a real shady incident on tape.
Puts the key back by the register, puts the sweatshirt on without putting any money in the register.
Jeff, the owner, had some idea about what was going on, but despite that, he let Kimmy continue to work. Talk about keeping dirty little secrets. But this is where things get really juicy. Jon was like, "Jeff, my man, you gotta handle this situation as soon as possible." So Jeff summoned his inner boss and made the tough call to fire Kimmy for her repeated heists. And let me tell you, she didn't go down without a fight. She confronted Jeff outside, pleading for another chance, begging him to reconsider. Oh boy, here we go.
I don't steal, Jeff. You know that. Have I ever taken $1 from you?
But Jeff wasn't having any of it. He knew it was time to take charge and clean up his bar. So he turned to Shelly, the love of his life, for some backup. Kimmy kept saying that she wasn't stealing, but hey, Shelly was the boss around here and she talked like one. I mean, just go ahead and hear her out on this.
You take something that does not belong to you. It's stealing, Kimmy.
Oh, Kimmy, sorry, but I really don't feel bad for you. Getting rid of her was for the bar's own good. Well, I hope these owners get some major reality checks.